this.
Friday, Halloween.
Oh my God.
Happy Halloween, everybody out there listening to this Aggressively Healthy podcast. Thank you for coming back. Boo. I had a mask.
You did?
Yeah, which I drove around all morning in, which is pretty intense, driving with a scary mask on and stopping at red lights and staring at people.
Could you see all right?
It was, I could. Not great.
Medically speaking.
And then I went in to get coffee at my local coffee joint, and I didn't realize, but there are adults still with PTSD from like childhood Halloween trauma, I guess.
How'd you find that out?
Well, the girl behind the counter like couldn't look at me, eyes down. I was like, she's like, oh my God, Halloween's my least favorite holiday. So I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'll take a black coffee. So how's everything going? Good?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Man. It's one of those weeks.
Lovely week. So there's been a lot of current events and a lot of talk about healthcare on major news networks recently. So,
and more importantly, the healthcare that we do. Exactly
like we do, and a very similar story. So
copycat, man.
I don't know if anybody's heard about him, but there's a guy out there called Peter Attia, Attia, and he wrote a very good book as well. But he thought and thinks along the same lines as us. Give me what your take on what we're trying to do is along the lines with what he believes too, just so everybody kind of knows.
So I think it's important to just give credit where credit's due, and like he's probably considered one of the guy who spearheaded this movement.
Yep.
And it's been around forever because the funny thing is, I mean, so many people send me those clips, but essentially they're like, oh my God, this doctor is recommending strength training and cardiovascular fitness training and good nutrition. And I'm like, yeah, I've kind of been doing this for a little bit too. I just don't have an MD after my name. Yep. So, and like, listen, same message, different messenger. And it's great because it's exactly like, we need to be edified in that way.
Yep.
But I also think it is important for these conversations to happen because it's the start of operationalizing what health is.
Yep.
And it doesn't necessarily mean it's on your blood work or found on a VO2 or found in a certain test. It is the commitment to health that makes all the difference.
Yep.
And I'm really happy that it's finally being broadcast from really important people, very intelligent people on big media platforms. And it's not just your local guy at the gym.
Right.
And that was kind of tongue in cheek, but
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's the same shit like Jack LaLanne talked about 50 years ago.
Yep. And it's an interesting topic because it's hard to imagine that when a doctor gets on TV and tries to give healthcare advice, it's looked at as voodoo. But if a doctor gets on TV and says, hey, you're dying from a cancer, we don't know where it started, here's some crazy drugs we concocted. It's going to kill everything and anything in your body that's moving really fast. We're going to fix you. Then that's preoperative, right? Then we're going to take you to an operating room with a piece of metal, and while you're sleeping with chemicals on board, we're going to cut you wide open. We're going to remove whatever that big growth is, reroute your organs, fix everything, stop the bleeding, keep you in the hospital on a ventilator, and then send you out. And that's not voodoo. That's like normal.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we lost the population on that. But where do you think the hardest part of like what you said in terms of commitment to the act and commitment to the process, where do you think you lose people? I mean, I know you lose them, quote unquote, at the commitment to the process, but let's even go deeper if we can psychologically. Like, how do you then discern who is able to be committed to the process or not, independent of what they say out loud? Like, what do you see in the consumer that is like, oh, that's the person I could work with here at Ranfone Training?
I'll zoom out for a second because, you know, the rise, like you look at the statistics of ADHD diagnoses are way up, right? And like now we have adults that have attention deficit disorder.
Right.
And it's all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And is it truly a deficit disorder? Like,
yeah.
Or is it just we can't manage our attention well anymore?
Yeah.
Because there's so many shiny, cool, interesting things that compete for our attention.
Yeah.
And the hardest things to do aren't the sexiest things and aren't the easiest things to do. And I think that's where, like, when you see a failure in health outcomes, relationships, like things that are really hard to, like a really good relationship is hard.
Yeah.
Really good health is hard.
Yeah.
Being wealthy and financially secure is hard.
Yeah.
And like when we're starting to see on the opposite, more people are in debt, more people are sick, more people are divorced. So it's like, yeah, but thank God we can just do this.
Yeah, and disappear.
And I think because that's starting at an earlier age, the departure from actually, like, you're born with all the health you need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, correct me, unless there's something at birth that's like, oh my God, we have an issue. You're given everything you need. And it's just a matter of time when, like, we all give it up at some point.
Yeah.
But it seems like that timeline has been compressed exponentially in the last 25 years.
So the phone thing is an interesting topic you brought up. And the reason I want to talk about it a little more is like, this is an alternate reality and an alternate world. So I view this as like Disney World in my mind. And it changed my ability to interact with social media. Like, this isn't reality to me. When I see somebody on here smiling and like, here's me and my wife jumping off a tree and we love each, like, I know that those two at some point during that vacation were like, I'm going to fucking drown you before we jump up, right?
Kids.
Yeah. So like, come on, people. We know this is Disney antics. That's fine. But the reason I do what I do, because some people are like, you're some egomaniac. You post yourself lifting all the time. No. That has nothing to do with ego. The biggest thing is I want to show people that to get to the result of being able to do a pull-up, it takes every day trying to do a pull-up. It takes every day in the process. So I want to expose the process. Now, as a physical fitness expert, when you expose the process of physical fitness, everybody's like, well, that's what he does for a job, right? Yeah. Now, as a doctor, I expose physical fitness, and I'm being called an egomaniac. But the whole goal is I want to show people that true healthcare is gripped in that. So the alternate universe in here, maybe give a little bit of a reality kick. Like, look, we wake up every day. We try to get to the gym every day at the same time. We try to make things happen, routine. So the process of that, if you embrace it, is pretty freaking neat. I think talking all about the training, the exercise, the nutrition, and then back to the Peter Attia thing, right? So Attia is a doctor, and they did a 60 minutes segment on him, and he does his physical fitness evaluation, nutrition evaluation, and then a medical evaluation. Now, I am not throwing any shade at him whatsoever, but I'm just speaking for myself. If I right now, with the amount of knowledge I have in exercise world, started telling people how to do exercise, you still know more than me, no matter what I do for the next end of my life in terms of learning about exercise. So why would I not have you take care of the things I don't know, the same way you said to me, hey, the medical end is outside my professional scope. Why don't you do that? And I think the smartest transition from what Attia and 60 Minutes presented to the world is what we're doing, right? Because if I am taking enough time to learn about the medical end of people, and you're taking enough time to learn about the exercise end of people, and we're not splitting our time between those two, I think the delivery of product's amazing. So what do you think on that in terms of a doctor trying to do it all versus the team approach?
Yeah, to be clear, I don't really know what his team looks like and like what his division of labor from his
right.
Like because I know his price tag is a hefty
Phenomenal.
price tag,
right?
And good for him. But I don't know what that means in terms of care.
Right.
You know, I know the evaluation process is very deep and probably very keen to all the details. I don't know what fulfillment looks like.
Right.
I remember I worked with someone on his team prior to them being on the team, and they were very intelligent when it came to training and mobility and exercise and stuff like that. But I don't really know how that's done.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think, and he seems as though he doesn't want to be bogged down in the details for every person because he knows that's quite limiting.
Yep.
So I'd like to believe that his fulfillment process is done with certain pieces of labor that can handle the job or the task. But as it pertains to like how we do it, like we want to make sure that we never infringe on what someone else's expertise is,
right.
and making sure that we are in line with that division of labor always.
Yep.
and even creating some hybrid roles, if you will, so that they can toggle between, like, if you're actually performing a medical piece or a fitness piece or a nutrition piece. And it's only going to get better the way that we envision how we want to do it, because there's going to be more overlap.
Right.
At least overlap in understanding and concept, not necessarily the person doing it.
Right.
So, and we can only speak intelligently on what we're doing. Like, we're always trying to push the model and evolve the model. And it seems like, from what 60 Minutes displays, like, it made it the Peter Attia show. And I'm sure that's not really how it is.
Right. Now, the big topic of conversations was VO2 max and its predictability for longevity or healthcare. And I think VO2 is a very good, pinnacle to look at, but it's actually the joining of two streams of medical and exercise science where they meet. And I think it's a study that's really good at giving information and data feedback on, is your medical and your fitness somewhat aligned? But if we took a random person right now and put them on a VO2 and their score came up, there's actually no accountability to that score to be like, oh, you're going to live another 12 and a half years. Like, that's not what it's going to tell you. What it's going to tell you is a measurement of how well you are fit for your cardiovascular fitness at that point in time. And the whole goal is to transition that to just make it better, so that then the predictability of your health becomes easier because you are healthier, meaning your medical and fitness all merged and made your VO2 better. But we talk about multiple variables in healthcare, right? So there's not just one. It's not just like the VO2 is the variable we look at. So what is the right statement, I guess, to somebody who comes in here and is like, I just want to be healthy. I just want, it's not just one magic bullet. It's not just, one exercise. It's not just one day at the gym. It's that process. So where do you start with that person, right? Because, okay, I'm Marco Lujic. I'm 45 years old. I've never worked out before. I walk into your office and I say, hey, Mike, I need to get healthy. How do you then transition me into something like this? Because I just watched the Peter Attia show. Hi.
Well, I would ask, what about that inspired you to come in? Because, chances are, if it's the first time you actually Googled us and oh my God, I'll just go there.
Right.
As opposed to the other 37 gyms in a 3-mile radius. You know what I mean? Why us?
Right.
And what about the Attia thing made you think about us? Was there something that you searched for?
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that whether you call it inspiration or motivation, is captured in that moment.
Yeah.
And that might be, I'm trying to avoid something negative, or I'm trying to get to something positive.
Yeah.
Or it could be a combination of both. So I really want that to be the salient aspect of our conversation.
Right.
Because that will, at the end of the day, be the most readily available fuel for the commitment going forward, right?
Yep.
So if you're scared of having a heart attack at 47 because your dad had a heart attack at 45 and you don't want to have your kids grow up fatherless,
right.
Whatever it may be, it's all right, I'm not going to use that as a scare tactic. But since you brought it up, let's maybe take a look at your cardiorespiratory fitness.
Yeah.
Let's get some blood work. Let's do all these things and at least minimize that thing from happening that got you off the couch, right? And then I think we've talked about this a little bit. There is a constellation of things that we want to look at because it's not a one size fits all approach.
Yeah.
And that's also because health to everybody is very individualized. So that might be I want to stay away from dying as long as I can, but I also want to make sure that I can run or play with my grandkids or whatever it may be. It's what are the things that we actually have to do to get there?
Right.
Is it bodybuilding 5 days a week? Probably not. It's certainly not running a marathon. Somewhere in between is going to make the most sense.
Yeah.
And then sticking with it for the next 35 years to realize that goal means that you have to like it and enjoy it and find it fulfilling.
Yeah.
Right? So
and I also want to throw out there, I think what your explanation just was is what everybody needs to embrace, right? It's what's going to fulfill you. It's what's your goal. And then it's that constant group of variables. And coming in with the kind of the insight of watching an episode of 60 Minutes where it's the VO2 scared me into wanting to go do that. That's also, there's argument in the world of cardiovascular fitness, because the one thing that caught my eye in one of his segments, he's like, I think he said he does like 3 days of strength training and then he does like 4 to 5 days of cardio.
Peter Attia.
Peter Attia. And now I love the fact that we don't really do a ton of just purely dedicated cardio. We do a lot of cardio mixed in with weightlifting. But then if you get yourself in a cardio situation, we've never been void of cardiovascular ability to succeed.
Right.
So that interaction, I have a slightly different take on him. And then I always ask, and this is a good question to the general population, but also to myself, it's something I think about a lot. VO2 and a marathon runner. Because a lot of marathon runners are not super healthy people.
Right.
And a marathon runner is viewed as the greatest VO2 human on the planet, right? They just go and run ultra marathon. But really, at the end of the day, overdoing it on that end ain't so great either. So yes, the VO2 is an incredible measurement in the right person, because if you go take a VO2 on a marathon runner, they're going to smoke it, but they might have cardiomyopathy, they might have a million other things, runner's lung, like a ton of different stuff going on. So I just want people to know the VO2 is a really intense measurement, but I think the variability on your health goals, the variability on what you can achieve on a day-to-day basis, the process, the embracing of that, and the ability to change that VO2 from whatever it is to a little better relative to your own score is really what we're looking for.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's in all of exercise, right? Like somebody comes in and they can do 3 push-ups. Well, the next day if they can do 4, that's amazing.
Right.
And that gets back to the progressive overload thing. Now, we've presented kind of case studies where it's like, oh, I'm coming in, I just heard the VO2. I'm coming in, I scared myself into wanting to be healthy. What about the random person that walks in, which we call a health user bias approach? And there's a lot of healthy user bias in studies. And what that means is healthier people will do healthier things. Do you see that in the exercise world a lot? Like where people that walk in and their first encounter with you is because they are already high achievers and want to get better? Or do you see more people that are just, holy shit, I just saw something on TV that scared me into wanting to come exercise?
At this point, we probably have more of it's definitely mixed, but probably more along the lines of someone who is in shape rather than someone starting from zero.
Yep.
We still get those people, but it's probably more because word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know, so now that we have healthy, fit, active people in a certain, avatar or demographic, they say what they're doing, they refer their friends. So it's a little bit more like on like.
Right.
But then we still get the occasional person, like my friend started here with zero experience, and I have zero experience.
Yeah.
I want that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because now that you bring it up, we kind of tested that hypothesis when we opened RTS Health, because we didn't go public.
Right.
We marketed it to the gym first.
We
didn't even say what we were doing outside these walls.
Yep.
Because our belief was that healthy people who already do the hard shit, they come to the gym 3-4 times a week. They get up in the morning at 5 a.m.
Right.
They track their macros. They jump on the bike. They would probably be way more interested in what can I amplify, or how can I amplify the things I'm already doing?
Yeah.
And that is, of course, what you do.
Yep.
And I don't want to speak for you, but
No.
It's probably way better to have someone that has a foundational anchor of training, nutrition, accountability, lifestyle, walk into your office and be like, how do I get that 1% better?
Yeah.
Rather than someone's like, shoot me up, fix me, take that pill. What do I have to do? And it's like, well, now you're a project, dude.
Right. Yeah, I think it's an incredible experience to have somebody walk in who already does have that foundational help. The funny thing is, though, those people realize the difference when you do medically optimize them, but it takes them a little longer. Whereas the person who's completely off the rails and they get one little change, they're like, oh my God, this stuff's incredible. So it's a pretty neat thing to see.
Yeah.
But I will say that 98%er who then goes to 100, when they do realize that difference, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, healthy user bias, I think, is beyond the barrier of health. I think it's financial, social, professional, whatever, because I seem to see high succeeding and high success individuals seeking this sort of thing, seeking a little
Yeah.
bit of a more push in the education of exercise nutrition world. So is it lifestyle? Is it genetics? Is it relationships? What do you think the biggest driving factor in wanting to become healthy is? Do you think it's self-betterment? Do you think it's to make sure you're not embarrassed among your peers? Is it because you want to make sure you do? Like, what do you think drives most people to try to be quote unquote healthy? Because I don't think it's fear of death anymore. Because
No.
if there was fear of death, nobody would drink alcohol, right? It would be eliminated from the planet because it's like things like that you just wouldn't do because you know you're actively killing yourself. So fear of death shouldn't drive anything.
Which is interesting to say because, socially we're seeing this huge trend away from alcohol consumption.
Big. Yep.
And this generation or whatever generation it's called has the least likely or probability of alcohol consumption.
Right.
Out of the last, 100 years since Prohibition.
Yeah.
To get to your question about like why people want to be healthy or healthier, I think it is rooted in some kind of odd competitiveness.
Yeah.
I remember someone saying is like the most competitive men will always seek the most competitive games or environments.
Yeah.
And once you get in that and you start to see what other high competitive people do, you emulate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like if you ever made a team or you're called up from freshman to varsity and you're like, what's that guy do?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he does X, Y, and Z. He gets ready for the game this way. He watches game film that way. You're like, well, I'm going to do that.
Yep.
So I think like the success leaves clues is part of that. And again, like we can thank social media for this. It's like they're illuminating a lot of the things, let's say, high level athletes, celebrities now that, we are making accessible for people that are just in different demographics.
Yep.
But if you're going to be a competitive lawyer, father of two, and you start to realize that, man, I don't feel, look, or move the way I used to, what can I do?
Yeah.
Like giving them concrete answers is also a really appealing thing. It's like do X and Y occurs.
Yeah.
I think that appeases that mind of like, what is my competitive advantage if I do this thing?
Yeah, well, competition's interesting. I mean, my brain's going in a million directions because I always found it really cool. I loved it that in sports, like me and you can be best friends. We played sports together. When we played lacrosse together and you were on defense and I'm on offense, like we're trying to fucking win.
Correct.
But then directly after the game, we're like, you want orange? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but I think that environment also teaches people how to be healthily competitive. So then you seek environments where that process is difficult. And why are we able to be competitive then be friends after that? Because the process to be able to compete against each other took us training, running, getting in shape enough that we could slam each other on a field, not hurt each other, get up and be like, oh, well, we're going to fucking see who gets the ball next time. And I think that play against yourself is even harder, right? Because you go in a gym, you go in an environment where you're doing things that hurt. Your body's actually saying, stop, like this sucks. And you have to like deny your body the satisfaction of telling you to stop and keep pushing through. But I think that process and evolution, like you always say in a gym, is the only place you can really make that happen, where your coping skills, your resiliency, where your lifestyle, relationships, work, all of those things kind of disappear and morph into something that you need to compete against and make sure that you continue that process. And I think that really does, by default, healthy user bias eliminate people.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because if you don't like a little bit of discomfort, it's going to be really difficult to train hard. It's going to be really difficult to get through that work day where your boss is like, why didn't you do that on time? That person might not be yelling at you because you're a bad person or whatever. That's just the job you didn't finish.
Correct.
But why didn't you finish that? Why didn't you get to pick up your kid on time? Why did you go home and snap when your kid sneezed when you shouldn't have? Why? Because maybe you're not healthy and maybe you're not able to cope with the environment because of the things you said. You're not willing. The variability of what we can adjust to in our environment changes as you get healthier. There's a new study recently that I was reading about, off topic for 1 second, then we'll come back on. In Japan, they looked at longevity. and they tracked the overconsumption of fish, didn't increase longevity. Rice didn't increase longevity. And then red meat, oldest in Japanese culture. So the red meat consumers. So it's putting to rest a little bit of this red meat thing and this protein thing. And the reason I bring it up is there's so much bias in food and exercise, to the point where selling resistance training to women is like a difficult thing. But we get back to this coping, healthy, whatever. What do you think the single most important variable for training approach in any human middle age would be, like, out of the gate? Like, here's what we have to establish.
Consistency. Like, honestly, because, like, we talk about this a lot in, like, financial terms,
Yep.
compounding interest.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen without consistency.
Yeah.
And that might mean or it shouldn't mean that 5 days you're a rock star and then we don't see you for a week.
Right.
I'd rather just take that 2.5 times a week over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same total amount of work,
Yeah.
but distributed and allocated in a way where now you're getting consistent touch points and exposures. And that means your consistency of exposures also gives you consistency of adaptation and benefit.
Yeah.
And if you can just stack those 2.5 times per week on average over the course of a month, over the course of a year and
Yeah.
decade, like, really cool things happen. Because we talk about this too, like, the only thing that's an equal opposite to training is not training.
Yeah.
So as good as all the benefits are, all the problems and consequences of not training are just as great. Just
Right.
like the absolute
Yeah.
negative of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I think about this because I just hurt myself, and the first thing I thought about was like, oh my God, now my whole routine is going to be off. So, like, I'm just going to still show up, do
Yeah.
what I can, and make sure that it doesn't displace my habits
Yeah.
of being, like, having my day set for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I will still maximize what I can, and I will make sure that I don't put myself in the red by doing stupid shit. But the most important thing, like, if you think about an injured athlete, like, well, an injured athlete can't play on Saturday.
Yeah.
He's no good to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, the more times that you don't do something or can't train or can't compete, like, the quality changes.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that you have consistency, because that's really where all the great benefit comes from.
Now, I want to keep going with this a little bit, if you don't mind, talking about the injury, right?
Yeah.
So you've been consistent over, I don't know, 20 years plus, 40 years plus, your whole life working out, right? Exercising. This injury to you will be like stepping on an ant, right? It won't be a big, in the realm of healthcare, it's going to be such a small bump. How do you, outside of the gym, right? So outside of workout time, what are you doing in terms of any special considerations to your personal exercise nutrition routine, maintaining consistency with an injury, but what are you doing outside of the gym to make sure that goes well?
Like the actual recovery or
Like,
rehabilitation.
yeah,
of
that's
injury.
what I mean. Like, are you eating different? Are you sleeping different? Are you just advice for people that might get injured?
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that rehab and training are roughly the same thing. It's just different exercises, if you will. And if you have different exercises for whatever reason, then you should have different recovery strategies, which includes your sleep and your nutrition and maybe your supplementation. So, peptide therapy is something that's really in vogue right now. So, using that as best I can for tissue health and anti-inflammatory benefit. I will go to a physical therapist to do things that I can't do for myself. I will change my workout program, obviously, and I will change my nutrition a little bit too. And I will make sure that I get adequate amount of protein, because basically every tissue is made of collagen, and we need protein to make have a significant amount or a substantial amount of collagen production, because you're trying to lay down new tissue. It's just not muscle tissue. It's probably ligament, tendon, stuff
whatever
like that,
it might
but
be.
It's still collagen, right? And we still need an abundance of protein supply and resources to make that happen. The other thing I probably would consider.
What about sleep?
Oh, so one more thing about the nutrition piece is I probably don't need as much food.
Yeah.
And that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I like to eat.
Yeah.
And I like to eat a lot. And
it's a true mental test for a real love of eating with a huge muscle mass to supply, to consciously be able to reduce that in a time of stress, depression, anxiety, and not use eating as a coping skill.
Totally.
So that's like superhuman power, kind of, I think. Because to
Yeah.
shut your brain off from wanting to consume, I'm looking you dead in the eye, whoever's watching me, in the kitchen at night with a nice jar of peanut butter and some bread and a good carb source, maybe a little candy next door. It's a hard
All of
fucking
it.
stop,
Yeah,
right? So, like you said, the biggest thing is reduce that caloric intake.
Yeah.
Now, what about training-wise in terms of your adjustments to training? So, your irritation is lower back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you do maybe to work around that to get your keep your legs a little bit involved, upper body?
Yeah.
Just because it happens all the time.
Yeah. So the funny thing about back injuries, usually it affects, it's not, you just can't segment the body.
Yeah.
Because certain force production, tension, stability measures have to be brought by the lumbopelvic area.
Yeah.
So I'm using a lot more machines to create that stability, so I don't have to, encourage it myself. I want to make sure that I'm moving in a way where I can control like every inch of movement.
Yeah.
So that there's no external or externality that I have to account for, especially in real time.
Yep.
So slowing down movement, increasing the rep ranges, just in the initial, because it happened the other day. So just trying to figure out what does work is like my number one objective over the next 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
What of my exercise catalog can I utilize right now so that I am relatively safe and still encouraging a training effect? Because one of the things you don't want to do is, especially with highly fit people, is not do anything, because that actually just delays recovery overall. Because again, even though it might be a body part, your body works as a system.
Yeah.
So if you start to remove all this stimulation, the body starts to respond and not lay down new collagen or new cells or have hormonal changes that are not
supportive of
advantageous.
recovery.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you want to try to keep intact as much as you can without setting yourself back.
Yeah.
So staying away from things that would provoke or insult that area directly, making sure that you're using different types of tactics or strategies in training so that you're getting some kind of training effect, even if it's more on the cardiovascular side, which might mean like, hey, maybe we have to upregulate parasympathetic activity. So when you ask about sleep, there's no greater benefit to parasympathetic activity than getting high quality sleep.
Yeah. And so
don't look at my Instagram today when I woke up. So,
so I am, Mike's not alone with the lower back irritation. So last week I did exactly what I do all the time. I felt really, 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 really good. And I love a good leg press. And in the past, I always say to myself, don't keep going up in weight, just be happy. But I went up in weight, went up in weight, went up in weight, irritated my lower back. Now, part of that recovery was a little bit of rest. And in the past, I've never been good about like, all right, I'm taking 3 days of rest. I'd be like, I'm going to go ride the bike. Maybe I'll do. But I rested. You, and I have to say, did, what would it be called? FRC?
It's some manual techniques.
Manual techniques where you twisted me in knots and like whatever you did. And my back got better pretty quickly, like almost within 7-8 days. But it was that rest, it was the nutrition, and then it was that manual therapy that you did. But I think the cool thing is the recovery end of things with injury and all these other things that you said is most profound is you have to keep moving, right? Yeah. So you just can't stop. And that old school mentality was like, oh, your back's injured, bed rest.
Don't do anything.
Right. But that's transitioned. That's changed. I also feel really strongly that if you are metabolically healthy and sound, these recoveries happen so much more.
Totally.
Now, any specific, maybe just off the cuff, any specific movements that with lower back or upper back pain, any specific things you might do to alleviate that for any general population people that might have lower back pain?
Yeah, I mean, low back pain, it's obviously multifactorial, and there's a lot about the spine that could be injured. So not knowing the actual cause or the mechanism that we're dealing with, I mean, it's too variable for me to give like a general response.
Right.
But the idea is that as soon as you're able to get into the position that originally injured you, you should start.
Okay.
And that is because you do not want tissue tolerance to decrease more.
Yeah.
And the first goal is to always get that tissue tolerance back up to the baseline prior to the injury.
Right.
And I'm simplifying this because it's very complicated.
It's a lot.
but that might mean you're just trying to get into a position unloaded, or not defying gravity, or something that does not present harm or tremendous downside, and then build that tissue tolerance, because you don't want to just, like, imagine if you said, all right, Marco, you hurt yourself squatting, you should not probably squat ever again.
Right.
Well, how do I go to the bathroom? How do I walk upstairs? How do I get in my car? So like, it is so ridiculous to think. And this used to be like, I'm saying this used to be the recommendation, is like, keep a neutral spine.
Yeah.
Don't let your back move.
Right.
Your spine is many segments.
Yeah.
They're supposed to segment.
They have to.
So if they don't, worse things happen.
Right.
But that's why we see this recurrence of injury in prior injured spots, is because we don't do enough direct work to bring up the functionality or the interplay between these different joints and muscles and soft tissues, so that they're always at a greater risk of injury. Like the old saying, like, what happened when you sprained your ankle? Oh, we're gonna boot it, we're gonna tape it, we're gonna do this
don't
stuff,
move.
and it's like, don't move it,
right?
Which is great if it can hold up to the demands, but once you take that bandage or that brace off, you're at a greater risk of injury.
Yeah. What's your favorite client to work with? Like, what if you had like the perfect person to walk in your office and be like, hey, I want to train here, and you're like, oh, I'm taking you in my back pocket. What's that look like to you?
There's probably two things that are very obvious to me right from working with someone. The first one is that they're coachable.
Yeah.
Like, they listen, they get feedback, they take feedback, they ask good questions, which leads me into the second one, is probably just curious.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, and I like these people too, don't get me wrong, they want to know the what and the how.
Yeah.
What do I do to get better, and how do I do it?
Yeah.
And like, that's probably the majority of our clients. But then there's this subgroup that really want to know the why.
Right.
And not in the way that they are trying to challenge you. They just have such an invested interest and approach that it helps them internalize the what and the how,
right? Which
I think maybe just psychologically reinforces what they do and empowers them to continue to do it. But that's the depth of understanding that, you know, based on, you know, what their prior knowledge is.
Right.
But those two things, they have to be coachable, and they typically are curious. Those are my ideal kind of traits.
I think coachable is such a big thing in life. And I think the word coachable outside the sports arena means like just a good person.
Yeah.
Like, a coachable human is just humble enough to know that you know more. Like, I'm a doctor, I got this thing. Like you said, it carries weight with what I say, blah, 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 right? But like, when it really comes down to it, pure healthcare entry level, prior to me doing this, like, you knew way more about healthcare. I mean, I could operate on you, take your gallbladder, I could fix a busted hernia that somebody else ruined too. You know what I mean? Like, we could do all that stuff. Great. But in terms of healthcare, ground level, like, how am I going to make this person live a better, longer life? Like, your front lines on that. Your exercise, nutrition knowledge is way more. So if I don't embrace that and say, oh yeah, hey, you should be doing that aspect of it, I'm not coachable either. And I think one of the coolest parts about encountering your training style is you're coachable. Meaning, as a consumer, you're willing to adjust a little bit to my consumption ability, my style, which then makes it not algorithmic. And I think that's the most special part about this. I have people in the office in the medical end of it all the time with different goals. I start out my entire conversation by saying, what is your goal in accomplishing? Like, what do you want to accomplish with this interaction? And that sets the table. So I think the perfect person that walks in, like you said, is coachable. Just here are the tools that you should learn how to have, and then I'm going to teach you how to use those tools in your own toolbox to make yourself better. We talked with two people earlier this morning, one of who's a PT, the other is a client, and we were discussing what they thought might be the hardest part of compliance from the consumer end of it. And both of them said nutrition. It's such a weird thing to me because, and I get it. Like I said before, the peanut butter candy thing. Like, there are times where you look at something, you're like, I'm eating it.
Yep.
It's gone. And you almost can't control yourself. Why is our mouth like our biggest enemy right now? Because it's our mouth and our dietary intake is actually killing more people right now than anything. Like, it's it's bananas. And you can't, yes, we can blame the food, and we do it a ton. But I'm sorry, people, like, nobody's actually sitting you in a chair, opening your mouth, and shoving a McDonald's burger in it. Like, nobody's doing that. So then what is it about us that we can't control? Like, why can't we embrace nutrition in a healthier manner?
Oh my God. Where do I?
Yeah, I don't even know. And I don't know why. I don't know where that came from.
Well, so I'll start with, because you mentioned, how am I navigating like being injured and whatever.
Yeah.
And like last night, I'm pretty regimented, right? And last night I was just stressed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had my dinner, and I was kind of eating alone because I was trying to get work done, whatever. And then there was just this cereal. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to have a bowl. And I ended up having like a box of cereal. Yeah. And I was fully aware of what I was doing, and I didn't need it.
Yeah.
But it was a stress response.
Yeah.
And I almost just said, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to let it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just reminds me of like classic, like psychological reasoning and Pavlovian behavior modification. There's a stress, there's a response, and then there's an outcome.
Yeah.
And when you don't delay the time between the stressor and the response, you usually make worse decisions.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows, like, if you got angry and said what you thought right when you were angry, it's probably regrettable.
Yep.
But if you just bit your tongue and waited, you're able to calm yourself, think about it, and still address the problem.
Yep.
But it was more calculated. It was less emotionally driven.
Yeah.
It was more sensible, like whatever. It was a better outcome because of the delay in between stress and response. And I think we can have those micro interventions. If I really had any bandwidth last night, you know what I would have done? I would have had a bowl of cereal, and then I would have went for a walk.
Yeah.
Or just gotten away. And then I would allow myself to feel full, be full, and be like, I actually don't want another bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same way of saying something in the moment.
Yeah.
Or just waiting.
And
it's amazing what happens when you just wait from this stressor and allowing yourself to respond, because the outcome usually improves.
Right. And a cool thing, which proof is in the pudding, you have been consistent over however many years that a box of cereal and a moment like that is not actually going to add to your losses, right? That'll even out.
Yeah.
Because you are resilient and healthy enough and metabolically sound that it doesn't even really matter. So you can take those hits. You're kind of armored, right? That thing you can cope with because you're so resilient in the other ends. And I think that's a testament to the fact of why you do this as a process, as a multivariable approach to becoming healthy. I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to have moments where you're a little bit annoyed. You do something like that, you let it out, and then you get right back on the track.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah.
Right? Like, shit's going to happen. And this is maybe where I can empathize with a lot of people. Like, I don't care that you had a deviation or a screw up or whatever. I care how long it takes you to get back.
Right.
Like, and that maybe is the meta outcome of all these practices that we're trying to instill, and the abilities of people that we're trying to provide for people to make good decisions on a long enough timeline.
Yes.
Like, you can make a bad decision. Great. What are you going to do next?
Right.
So you screwed up. I don't give a shit. Like, what are you going to do next? Like, that's what it comes down. Even if you had, all right, so you were perfect this week. What are you going to do next?
Yeah.
You got to do the thing.
Right.
You had a shitty week. Okay, what are you going to do next?
Right.
You got to do the thing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's always coming back to center.
Yeah.
And the longer you do that, the greater the deviations can be, because you know where to get back to.
Right.
So
I love it. Marcus, how have you been? Good?
Do you have a costume, by the way?
Yeah, what are you going to be?
I don't have a costume.
Oh, my God.
So I am, are we doing Power Puffs? Oh, wait, sorry.
I don't know. What is that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we will.
Are you coming tomorrow night?
Yeah, you're coming tomorrow night, right? We're having a nice big party, a little Halloween.
I sent you the invite.
November 1.
This guy never gets back to me.
Ever. So, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm like his side chick.
Aggressively Healthy Podcast. Listen, if you got any questions, concerns, once again, I will reiterate. We are unedited. There's no AI in here. This is us. It's raw. It may be against the standard platform, but that's okay with us. We want you to know who we are, what we're about, what we deliver, and I think you get us as we are. Bearded, unbearded, hair, hat, whatever it is. Enjoy your Halloween. Stay safe out there. God bless.